My name is Nick, and I'm 40 years old. I was born April 20th, 1981. Meanwhile, my son, who was born when I was 29 and a half in the year 2010, his name is Jack. And it's interesting because certain names peak in certain decades or certain centuries, and then you don't really hear those names anymore. And I think that's really interesting. So for example, Nick, that's pretty much an 80s name. Here's my pitch, okay? Think of an old man with the name Nick or Nicholas. I've met a few in my life, but not many. I mean, let's just put it in perspective. A man over the age of 70, let's just even do that. I'm even quite liberal there. A man over the age of 70 with the name of Nick, pretty uncommon. Find a guy around the age of 40, maybe in his mid 30s, more likely his name would be Nick. But what about someone my son's age who's in 5th grade? How many Nicks are there? I asked my son, there's no Nicks. Now my son, even his name is interesting because there's plenty of Jacksons. There's plenty of boys named Jackson with all kinds of different spellings. Circa 2010, they were born in that time. That was a very popular name, Jackson. Very specifically, my wife and I did not name our son Jackson. We just spelled in the classic Jack, which is a classic older man's name. It's my dad's name. My dad's 64. That's a proper name from that time. And there are boys named Jack that are 10 years old right now, but most of them are going to be Jackson. So I think that's interesting. There's not young Nicks. There's not old Nicks. There's Nicks right in the middle, somewhere around age 40, in that Oregon Trail generation between the millennials and the Generation X. There's a lot. But even Jack in itself, it is going to be one of the more classic names that you don't hear a lot of. So I just think that's interesting, that when I really think about it, and I tell people my name is Nick, I'm like, okay, yeah, that would make sense for a guy my age. I recently met this guy at church, and his name's Scott. And I met him a couple months ago, and then last Sunday at church, I turned around and said, hey, your name's Scott. I said, I don't know why I know that. I shouldn't have remembered that, but I remember meeting you months ago. And so this weekend, or actually a couple of days ago, my wife and I went to a Counting Crows concert here in the Nashville area where we live. And he was there. And so yes, I go to church with him, and he happened to be at the Counting Crows concert. 8,000 people there, and I just happened to see him as I was going online. So I told him, I said, yeah, so let's talk about the fact I remembered your name. I don't remember names well, like most people. I said, but your name, it made sense because, and he told me, I think he's like 45. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because guys that are age 45 were born in the 70s. If you're born in the 70s, your name probably is Scott or Jason or Michael. To me, those are all interchangeable names. And that's one of those names that fits that demographic. So just like my sister-in-law, she's 48, 49, her name's Jen, short for Jennifer. And that was a very popular name in the 70s and even the early 80s. You would never hear a young girl named Jennifer at this point, or Amanda, for example. But you can often have a pretty good guess of what someone's name is just based on the age range that they're in. So yeah, Nick, age 40, makes sense. Nick, age 10, doesn't make sense. Nick, age 70, probably not. Your thoughts on this belong right here.